In this special two-part edition of Fix the Flick, we'll be looking at 2016's Batman vs. Superman. Like any Zack Snyder movie, the amazing visuals made everything feel truly epic. It was a fitting canvas to tell such an iconic story. And the story itself was a perfect choice to expand DC's cinematic universe. Superman squaring off against Batman was a great way to establish exactly who the characters were and how they dealt with the world around them. However, everything fell apart when it came to executing that story. The introduction of several unnecessary storylines took focus away from the main character, Superman. Dealing with Doomsday could have made for a very compelling story, but it really had nothing to do with this story. Seeing Wonder Woman may have been exciting for fans, but her character made no sense beyond setting up the Justice League. And that happened during a 51-minute timeout from the main story to set them up through an email. All of this made the movie feel both overdone and lazy at the same time.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
Getting rid of the extra story elements could have allowed more time to set up a satisfying story arc. It also could have helped set up better motivations for the main characters. I mean, Lex spent the whole movie manipulating Superman and Batman into a fight because he hated Superman, I guess? Because his father beat him? I think that was it. People didn't like this movie. Not because they were Marvel fanboys who were determined not to like it no matter what. They didn't like it because it could have been so much better than it was. The Man of Steel versus the Dark Knight not only could have defined the DCEU for years to come, it could have defined the entire genre of comic book movies. And that's because the opposing views of Superman and Batman go to the very heart of what it means to be a superhero. Let's face it, in the comics, if the cops could do their job, there'd be no need for superheroes at all.
Christ!
So, when the justice system falters, do you keep the faith and try to change things through inspiration and dedication? Or do you take matters into your own hands, beating the criminals at their own game? Questions regarding the nature of justice should have been the focus of the movie. Their clash of ideals would have made a confrontation between these two giants truly unforgettable. So, with that in mind, let's try to fix Batman vs. Superman. First things first, we cut out the magic Batcave sequence and the death of Bruce Wayne's parents because A, we've seen it 100 times already, B, the Wayne's death will not factor into the rest of the movie,
Martha.
and C, we need to cut down on an already bloated runtime. No, the movie starts in Metropolis 1 year ago during Superman's fight with the Kryptonians. Instead of Bruce giving his employees permission to save their own lives, he calls to see if the evacuation of the building is complete. When he hears that it isn't, Bruce rushes into danger to help save as many people as he can. Showing the destruction caused by the Kryptonian fight at ground level was a great way to set up the central conflict of the movie, and it gives Bruce a very solid motivation for distrusting Superman. At Wayne Financial, Bruce finds this guy. He's still crippled by the fallen debris, but he's not some no-name character. He's Hank Henshaw, an old Superman villain that we'll get into later. We then cut to present day. Superman hasn't been seen since the Kryptonian fight, and Metropolis is just beginning to recover from the destruction. Clark is watching a Senate hearing that's trying to decide if Superman is responsible for the tragedy, instead of some vague, contrived crap in the Middle East. We see that he does feel responsible for the loss of so many lives. Because of his guilt, he's decided that Superman has caused more harm than good, and despite Lois's urgings, he's retired from being a superhero. Remember, in this version, Clark Kent is a little younger, early 20s at most. So, his views on right and wrong are very black and white, almost to the point of being naive. We see that, for Clark, killing is wrong no matter what the situation. So, for him, if Superman is responsible for those deaths, then Superman has to go.
Civil liberties are being trampled on in your city. Good people living in fear. He thinks he's above the law.
From there we go to an ice cutter in the Arctic Ocean. One of the crew calls out land on the horizon, and we see that they've come across the Fortress of Solitude. A crewman tells the captain that the fortress doesn't show up on any of their electrical instruments. The captain tells the helmsman to keep their distance and dials a sat phone. Someone answers, and the captain says, "Tell Mr. Luthor, we found it." From there, we go to Gotham City, and we're introduced to Batman and the human trafficker. And just for fun, let's make him Victor Zsasz. The original introduction of Batman was very cool, but this version is just a little different. Instead of the cops, it's the criminal being stalked by Batman. And when he's finally caught, the inevitable beatdown and branding is pretty violent, and pretty remorseless. In order for Batman to have an arc, at this early stage, we need to see that he's on the very edge of being a violent criminal, rather than simply a crime fighter. We see that Batman's morals are very gray. To him, people are either guilty of something or they will be eventually.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race, and if we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
Back in Metropolis, Clark is investigating the Bat Vigilante. In this version, Perry White isn't ignoring a newsworthy story about the Batman, but he is arguing the angle that Clark's using. Perry wants to emphasize that crime has fallen because of the Bat, and Clark argues that his tactics are still morally wrong. White points out that they might be, but that there's no one else to turn to since Superman left. This greatly frustrates Clark, who still has the instinct to help people, and he hates the idea of Batman's ideals being accepted or even tolerated. While they're arguing, the whole building shudders and the fire alarm goes off. An explosion on the lower floors has started a massive fire. Clark fights his first instinct to suit up and rescue everybody, and despite him helping like a regular person, Jenny Olsen gets trapped and dies in the fire. This has far more impact than, say, introducing a long-beloved character and then immediately killing them off with no meaning or feeling whatsoever. Clark is once again racked with guilt. It seems that no matter what he does, he can't save everyone. Lois points out that even though that is true, as Superman, he can save the people that no one else can. Meanwhile, Luthor Corp construction is rebuilding around the Kryptonian crater from the last movie. On the surface. Underground, they're searching for kryptonite. They unearth a large piece and call Lex with the good news. On the other end, Lex tells them to get it to the lab and to make sure that the cameras are rolling. We then see that Lex is in Hank Henshaw's house, and Henshaw has taken his injury just as badly as he did in the original movie. Lex then offers him a way to hurt Superman. Henshaw says that Superman hasn't been seen in a year, and Lex tells him that with his help, they can draw Superman out. And that's when Lex mentions the launch of an experimental rocket that Henshaw has been invited to attend. In the comics, Hank Henshaw was a mutated astronaut bent on destroying Superman. In this movie, he's a former astronaut who was grounded from the rocket launch due to his injuries. After the fire, Lois is tracking down the cause. She talks to a source that tells her that in order for the fire to have spread as fast as it did, the building's safety protocols had to have been overwritten. They take a look at security feeds that put KG Beast leaving the building just before the fire. Lois sees that he was former military based on one of his tattoos, and she begins to investigate who he is and why he started the fire. Sometime later, Clark is forced to cover Lex's party. In this version, Lex does act like a kid with ADHD on a sugar rush.
And I am... no, what am I? What was I saying?
But we see that it's just a persona that he uses to put people off guard while he manipulates them. Just like in the original version, Bruce and Clark bump into each other. But unlike the original, they argue over the nature of justice. They talk about keeping the faith versus taking matters into your own hands. And Bruce says the line about the world not making sense unless you force it to. It's very clear where the two characters are coming from, and both seem justified in their points of view. While they're talking, Clark finishes a drink and sets it on the tray of a waiting server. The server immediately takes it into the Mac, and fingerprints along with a DNA sample are collected. In this version, we see that Lex already knows who they both really are. After his conversation with Clark, Bruce infiltrates Lex's server. He's at the party because he suspects that Lex is using his position, cleaning up the Krypton crater, to exploit alien technology.